Welcome back. Today's topic is impact of market power in electricity markets. In the last video lecture, we have discussed about elastic markets, inelastic markets, and how the elastic demand affects the MCP. And in the SLT followed this particular thing, preceding this particular topic, I have introduced you the concept of market power. What do you mean by market power, and what is the impact of market power? So having studied these things, we will move ahead how actually it is exercised and how can we control this market power. So the very first thing after the completion of this lecture, I hope that you will be able to describe where market power can be exercised. This is already studied in SLT, but we will have a quick revision. And I hope that you will be able to analyze how market power destroys the competition in power markets. And I hope that you will be able to explain the stranded costs in deregulated power systems. That we will see today. So I'll start with the market power. This is what we have discussed in the previous video lecture, that market power is an anti-competitive practice which is hindering the electric sector, particularly generation. It is nothing but influencing the pricing of power, availability of power, and availability of transmission. And we have already gone through the definition that it is exercised by a single seller or a group of sellers in three ways, either driving the price or controlling the total output or excluding the competitors. In three ways you can exercise market power. And what are the negative impacts? The price of electricity will go up, and the customers, they will be having limited choices, and the competition in power industry will also be lowered, which will result in reduced quality service, reduced innovations in technology, and misallocation of resources. This is what we have covered in the last video lecture. Now, let's have a quick look at where this market power is exercised. So, where this market power is exercised? See the possible instances of exercising market power. Market power in generation sector we will go, because the primary sectors are, one is generation, the other one is the transmission, the other one is the distribution. So I'll confine myself only these two. I will start with this generation sector. How market power is exercised? It is exercised either intentionally or accidentally. So what is intentionally and accidentally exercising of market power? The very first case, intentional case means, if let us suppose there is a pool and there are three participants. So G1 is, let us suppose, 400 megawatt supplier, and these are 20 megawatts and 20 megawatts. So now this guy is having a large amount of generation in the relevant market, and he will increase the market prices for energy and capacity to their own benefits. In the absence of hourly meeting, what happens is that, so customers, they reduce their, because since he is having a large amount of quantity, whatever he says, automatically it will be the final verdict, right? So this type of presence of a player with huge amount of capacity and sharing a huge percentage of market share, this will lead to intentional exercising of market power, because these people are capable of forcing that or creating an artificial shortage of power. Because if they shut down, then automatically the entire market will experience a shortage of power. So because of that power which they have, they can drive the prices up. So this type of thing is called as intentional case. The other thing is accidental case. In the accidental case, what happens is nothing but the generators basically. This basically happens due to transmission constraints. So your transmission constraints, they may be stopping the capability of transferring of power in a certain area. So what happens is that the transmission constraints, they may limit the transfer capability, or you may be running certain generating units which may be of which may have a higher cost of production. So what will happen if you are running generators which are offering you higher cost of production? Then the prices will automatically go up. Unfortunately, this will result in higher prices of electricity. This is also called as exercising of market power. Apart from this, in the transmission sector also you will be experiencing this market power. How means, let us suppose if there are people and transport, and this is DISCOM sector. Let us suppose if dominant providers. So you are restricting some units to provide power, while dominant providers can drive prices up by determining which units to run and which units to keep back from the market. So this is one of the scenarios which we experience in transmission sector, where this transmission sector, you are restricting some units to provide power. You won't allow some generator 2 or generator 3 to utilize your transmission lines. So you are allowing only this guy, and he runs up some units which are most expensive. So this will increase the cost of electricity. Or otherwise, this guy, he will be sharing information to affiliated generating companies or any companies which are in the same fold of this particular company. So when this type of information is passed on, then automatically the guys who are very closely associated with them, they will get some information, confidential information, with which they may start influencing the market prices. So this is one sort of exercising market power. So market power can be exercised in both generation and also in transmission sector. Now coming to types of market power, there are two types, what we call them as vertical market power or horizontal market. You know that you have market basically, this is generation sector, this is transmission sector, and this is distribution sector, right? So exercising market power in one or more areas is called as vertical market power. Exercising market power in horizontal way is called as horizontal market power. Now we will have a quick look about these two things. The first one is vertical market power, where it is happening due to exercise of power by a single firm or an affiliate owner who holds two or more areas, among which one area can be crucial one in power delivery. As already said, let us suppose this is generation sector, this is transmission sector, and this is distribution sector. If one person, if he holds these two things, because you know the transmission sector is a crucial one for delivery of power, you will be having number of generators here, and only one transmission line will be available. So if you maintain control of this one, then you are holding the bottleneck, right? Or if you are holding this one, you are holding just like a bottleneck. So exercising of power by a single firm or an affiliate by holding two or more areas, and in particular the bottleneck facility. So example, a transmission line through which power is to be delivered to the buyers. In this case, once you hold this one, then automatically you will give preference to the generation companies which you already own or which you are already familiar with, isn't it? So this type of anti-competitive practice is called as exercising of market power. And since market power is exercised by controlling two or more areas vertically, it is called as vertical market power. And most of the markets in US and Asia are vertical markets, and they have vertical market power, because even in our state also, see Telangana, AP, Orissa, Tamil Nadu, whatever may be the states, the Genco and the Transco and the Discom all are basically government owned companies. So automatically they will have an edge on each other, whereas the private generation companies, they may not get that edge. Now, how to say important points in vertical market power. So it can be done by single entity or a group of entities, and it is the ability of a firm to abuse its control of transmission and distribution facilities by not providing access to all the providers equally. So what will happen? Any person who is very competitive of participating in the sector, he may lose access to all the facilities. So how can it be overcome? So the transmission sector or the bottleneck sectors must be controlled by independent authorities, or a fully functioning ISO with well planning to control transmission and distribution facilities, he can avoid the vertical market power. The next is horizontal market power. It is just like a single group or a dominant group or a group of firms to control production and district output. Let us suppose this is a pool. Okay, I'll take it as pool. Now there are G1, G2, G3 and G4 and G5. So if these three people, they form a group and control the production, or this person controls the production if he is a large producer, we have already seen that in the earlier slides. So a single firm or a group of firms, they control production to restrict the output and thereby raising the prices. So this happens when a firm is having local control, higher concentration in this single process. So if such concentration is sufficient with respect to certain other market conditions, then automatically this firm can influence the supply-demand equilibrium, and hence automatically prices may go up. And this type of exercising cannot be resolved by independent system operator. Okay, that is the biggest problem with horizontal market. Now we will move ahead with. I hope now you have understood what you mean by vertical market power and horizontal market power. Now we will move with market power measurements. Whenever you are trying to enter the market, we always see that we will ensure that the market is competitive. If somebody is already exercising market power in the market, then it is better if you don't enter that sort of markets. So whenever you are trying to estimate that market power is there or not in the market, what we will do is nothing. But there is one common term called as HHI, Herfindahl-Hirschman index. This is computed every time when anybody enters a market. So based upon this value, the people will say whether a market is competitive or anti-competitive. So it depends upon number of firms existing in the market and relative sizes of each of the firms. So how it is computed? It is a measure of concentration that also reflects the number of participants, and it is used to determine market competitiveness. It is a weighted sum of market shares of all participants. This is the formula. Weighted sum of shares of all the participants. See, defined as sum of squares of market shares of all participants. The only disadvantage, it is the simplest method, but the only disadvantage is that it fails to take into account the complexities of various markets. But so far it is a very simple thing. So I'll take an example and explain. See, there are different participants, Genco 1, Genco 2, Indian IPP1, IPP2. These four are persons who are generating the power. And this is their generation capacity. 100, 75, 15 and 10. So immediately what is the total generation capacity? It is 200 megawatts. So first of all what I will do is nothing but you leave these two columns. I will directly jump to this column. So what is his market share? 100 out of 200. It is 50%. 75 out of 200. 37.5. This is 7.5. This is 5. Totally 100% share, right? So you just square this one. 2500. This is 1400. 56. 525. They add this one. This is a HHI. Simple thing. For each individual capacity, you determine what is its share in percentage and you square it and you add it. This gives your HHI. If HHI is less than 1500, then the market is very competitive. If it is greater than 2500, which means that it is already highly concentrated, better not to enter this market. If it lies between these two, it is a moderately concentrated marketplace. Now in the previous case, if you see the HHI is very high when compared to this normal value of 2500, which means that it is highly concentrated, better not to enter these markets. Okay. So I hope now you have understood how to employ HHI to determine whether to enter a market or not. Now the last topic for today is stranded costs. So stranded costs are the costs that were previously observed by the divested business but remain with the parent company. So I'll take it is just like old families. We used to live in a combined family. Later on, we used to diverge from this. Let us suppose there is a company is there, and it has some investments and it has worked on some money, and later on, some separate companies they came out and they started as separate entities, and this is the parent company, and it already has some losses. Let us suppose 11,000 crores of losses is already had. For development it has taken. Now these are small companies which have come out of this parent company. Now what to do with this 11,000 losses? How to share these things? If they are not shared and they are remaining with this parent company, these are called as stranded costs. So these are the costs that were previously observed by the divested business but remain with the parent company following the separation. Now, it refers to the difference between the costs that are expected to be recovered under the rate regulation and those recoverable in a competitive market. So, these things cannot be recovered actually, literally speaking. So, prior to deregulation, a vertical utility used to exist, even in our state also. We used to have a state electricity board, and it has some sort of cost, even losses. Now, it has been disintegrated, divided into Genco, Transco, Discom 1, Discom 2. So, but the losses which are already there, they have not been divided into these things. So, and they are remaining with the state electricity board itself. Now, who is going to recover the costs? And who is going to pay the debts for these things? This is always a big question. So that's why the issues with standard costs are how to be determined, how to be recovered, and how much to be recovered, and who pays for recovery. So these type of questions always arise when you divide a company into its substitutes. I hope that now you have understood what do you mean by standard costs. So we started with the market power, we discussed different types of market power, and we have seen how it can be overcome. And we have already seen that how to know whether a market is competitive or not. And finally, we have moved on to this standard costs. So my conclusion is that market power is one of the main anti-competitive practices or difficulties which prevents competition in the electric power generation sector. So I hope now you are able to describe what is market power and how it is exercised and how to overcome that one. And I hope that you will be able to explain the standard costs. Okay. So these are the lecture level questions. I hope that you can go through them. Thank you. We'll meet in the